Welcome to the electrifying episode of Growth Leaders podcast. Today, we're thrilled to introduce Rebecca Hinds, the powerhouse behind Asana's Work Innovation Lab. With a sterling Stanford education and a trailblazing PhD focusing on the future of work, Rebecca is not just a leader, she's a visionary shaping the way we approach leadership and development in the digital era. Her insights, showcased in top-tier publications like the Harvard Business Review, New York Times, and Wall Street Journal, aren't just theory. They are battle-tested strategies for success in today's fast-paced business world. But Rebecca's journey isn't just about accolades and determination. As a serial entrepreneur and former elite swimmer, she knows what it takes to lead from the front lines. Get ready for a high-octane conversation with one of the brightest stars in the leadership galaxy. Welcome, Rebecca.
Peter, thank you so much. That was one of the most lively and energetic and vivid intros I think I've ever had. So thank you so much for that thoughtful intro.
Well, that is really where I would like to start this. I've been looking to very much forward talking to you and doing some more understanding. And that is not really about Asana. It's really where your thinking is going into the different companies. And I was just actually to start off a little bit directly into the artificial intelligence. And you have recently written a few articles which I found out here. One is New Ways to Build Artificial Intelligence into Your Company's Core. And in the end of that article, you say here, well, integrating AI into your organization isn't just about rolling out new technology. It's about rethinking how we work. And there are unconventional ideas how you can be strategic and do strategic steps towards greater AI. And what is the payoff? Well, a more adaptable workforce that's fluid in AI and also poised to lead and innovate with it. And as both you and I know, artificial intelligence is moving in many places. But I'm also very certain that both CEOs of larger corporations, CEOs of mid-sized, all the entrepreneurs, and then we have individuals, teams, departmental managers, operational managers, they could all favor out of this. But how should an organization approach this? Let's dive into a little bit. How should or how could an organization approach this, and how can a leader take it forward in an organization?
I think we treat artificial intelligence as a fundamentally new technology, and 100% it's a transformative technology, but I think it's important to remember that we've seen this time and time again throughout the history of technology. Every time we introduce a transformative technology to our workforce, it changes the ways in which we work in unexpected ways. What we're seeing in the research and the data more than anything else right now is what we call an ambition execution gap, where there's a lot of hype around artificial intelligence. There's understandably a lot of excitement, a lot of promise, a lot of potential. But when we look at how organizations are adopting the technology, we see these fundamental gaps. And especially when you're looking at how individual contributors within an organization are adopting the technology and perceiving the technology versus those executives at the top of the organizational totem pole, you see differences. And so you see differences in terms of optimism. Executives are much more optimistic about the technology. We see very deep-seated fear among individual contributors associated with the technology. And what's really interesting is when we look at the individuals who say their organizations have provided training, provided resources, provided structure around the technology, they're much more optimistic, those fears go away, and they're much more confident in the potential of the technology. So I think the first step is understanding that this is a transformative technology, but it's not inherently a transformative technology. And it
Mm.
really depends on how we adopt it, how we bring our entire workforce along, and how we're investing in the long term growth of our employees alongside this technology.
I mean, there's different ways, and I'm going to get back later on to get the clutter away. But
Mm-hmm.
I could imagine that one way to get an organization interested in this is actually to create an AI chaos. What I mean with that is that people around the organization, I mean, they can use ChatGPT, they can use any of the tools, they can and have that initial chaos, which you may not want to have in a later stage. But what ways would you recommend? How should
Mm-hmm.
I think? What tools or what way should I approach it?
Definitely. And I think you're very much onto something, and something that I see the most successful companies do right now, and that is embrace experimentation. I do think the first step is to have those policies, have those principles, have those guidelines, and especially in terms of what is that relationship between the AI and the human, communicating that to your workforce. We see very much now different metaphors being used to describe AI in the workforce. And the more leaders and organizations can encourage employees to see the AI as a teammate, as a helpful partner, as something that is going to augment their skill set, not replace. AI will inevitably replace some parts of all of our jobs, but fundamentally, it's going to augment our potential and extract what's really human about us: creativity, relationship building. I think that's the first step. The second step involves this experimentation and embracing risk taking in a safe, responsible environment. I've tried a couple times an initiative where I've asked my team or asked a team to try to use AI for every single possible task for a day or for a week.
Mm,
And what that does is it not only teaches employees the potential of AI, they start to use it not just for content generation, but they start to use it for data analysis, or they start to use it for email generation. But it
mm.
also encourages them to understand what are those limitations of AI, and where are the gaps still in terms of my ability to use the technology. And I think that type of immersion for a short period of time really opens up the possibility and starts to get us all in this AI mindset. And so they're going out and learning on their own. And I think the more you can create structure around that type of behavior, the more you can encourage sharing of best practices, of use cases, what employees in engineering are learning, individuals in marketing are learning in terms of the use cases. I think the more you're going to extract the benefit of that experimentation and be able to scale the learnings across your organization.
So if we then take this one step down from we are now overlooking it all, and then it could be within your teams, within Asana, or with customers you're working with. What tools are you recommending customers to actually start looking into? I mean, today all know about ChatGPT and should upgrade to version 4, and that's going to continue to new versions, etc. But there are, of course, other tools out there, and there's a lot of companies building on top of these. Is there any recommendation on, start looking into this if you're into that and that department, or how do you reason around those
Mm-hmm.
practical things?
And I think this again comes back to this idea that we're seeing very much pervade organizations in terms of treating AI like a fundamentally new technology, when really there's a lot inherent to AI that is similar to other technologies. And I think the first step is to understand your tech stack, understand the complete set of technologies that your organization is using, and figure out where is AI potentially going to be leveraged most effectively given that tech stack. What we saw right now,
Mm,
workers have too many different technologies that they're using. You see engineering teams develop their own use cases for technology, their own set of collaboration tools, and then you see marketing teams develop a fundamentally different tech stack in a lot of organizations. And so I think AI has the potential to start to streamline that collaboration, start to really tackle some of these cross functional use cases that we
mm,
know are so important in our organization. And
mm.
so, one of the reasons why I'm so excited about Asana's intelligence, our AI offering, is because it is built on this very powerful work structure that all of a sudden doesn't let you just understand how to maximize individual productivity, but starts to help you really understand how your teams are working together, where they're on track in terms of their goals, strategic priorities, and then be able to course correct in real time. What I'm most
Mm.
excited about is seeing this transition between from individual productivity to the team and the organization level. That's when you're really going to unlock the true potential of AI.
If if we look back in history, where I mean, you've done a lot of research on this. Where would you see that you have had a similar change for the companies? How far do we need to go back? And I guess there's a lot of intermediates, but what's up in your mind on that?
I think there are different aspects of it. So it's interesting when we talk about the fear around the technology and the uncertainty. We've seen that with every major technology shift. I often use the example of the introduction of the telephone. People thought it was
Yeah.
capable of transmitting evil spirits. When we saw electricity first introduced, people thought it could cause internal combustion. And so we see this fear, we see the resistance associated with every new technology. I don't think we've seen the transformative power and potential of AI in any other workplace technology. I think we saw significant changes in the ways in which we work during the Industrial Revolution. I think this is the next Industrial Revolution. I certainly, in my career and lifetime, have not seen a technology with as much power and potential to fundamentally change the ways in which we work, change
Mm.
workflows, change hierarchies, change job positions, as transformative as AI. And I think that's both exciting and also a responsibility for the company to recognize that this isn't a technology that you can roll out and adopt. It needs to be part of a strategic change to fundamentally how your organization
Mm.
operates.
Do you have any views on how it's going to change corporate training, content development? We are in this space of soft skills development of people, so the soft sides, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any views on that? I have not asked you that before.
So I think there are multiple different angles to it. And I do think that AI offers the potential to make some of those soft skills even more valuable. We know that probably empathy is going to become more important. Those human relationships are going to be more important. AI is going to be able to handle the automation very well, but they're not, so far artificial intelligence is not going to be able to replace the human touch, the empathy, working with a customer to truly understand their problem. Those are uniquely human skills, and I think they're going to become more valuable. And so I do think that the best organizations are going to invest very heavily in those soft skills, but they're also going to develop training and resources to help their employees also develop those hard skills. So I do think that it's going to be this combination of up leveling the soft skills and up leveling those harder skills. What's interesting about AI is everyone adopts it in very different ways. And if I had to choose one skill that is going to be fundamentally important to the future of work, it's going to be learning to learn and learning to learn with the technology. It's evolving so
It's a good one.
fast that We
Mm.
can't expect our workforce or ourselves to keep up with all the changes to the different models, all the different technologies, all the different use cases, but we can invest in our ability to learn with the technology. And I think the personal experimentation plays a big part in that journey.
That's super interesting. So how do you, I mean, you're doing a lot of research, and I don't know how you split your time, but being on top of understanding trends,
Mm-hmm.
understanding impact, and then you must have a fair amount of influencing, both internally and then later on to customers. How do you approach this?
I think, and I come at it from doing a PhD, and I think that experience instilled in me a lot of frustration in terms of the disconnect between great academic research and what happens on the ground in real organizations. And one of the reasons I was so excited about the prospect of the Work Innovation Lab and what we're building is this opportunity to bridge those two worlds. And especially when I came out of the formal academic setting, I made a strong commitment to continue to be embedded in that environment, in that workplace, because it offers such a different perspective than what we see in our
Mm,
own organizations. And so I try to be very intentional about splitting my time between thinking in terms of what are the real world impacts of our research, talking with customers every day in terms of understanding their problems, the opportunities on the horizon, what they're struggling with, and then also continuing to be immersed in the academic literature because it offers such an incredible perspective,
mm,
often a more forward thinking perspective. And when you can bridge those two worlds, I find that's when the deepest insights, the most valuable insights come to fruition. And so at the Work Innovation Lab, every day we're talking with one of our academic partners. Often it's a professor all across the world to understand what they're seeing, what they're researching, what they're interested in. And then also talking with customers who are facing this on the ground in real life. And I think
mm.
that mix of different perspectives generates incredible insights and allows us to be more forward thinking in the research we do in a way that's still hopefully digestible and impactful for the organizations in the thick of it today.
So you always have early adopters,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get some proof of concept. Some turns out really great, and some maybe not. But then there comes the maturity phase
Mm-hmm.
later on. So within Asana customers, so do you have X number of closely close customers where you can actually, this is what our research shows that should work,
Mm-hmm.
where you can do a smaller pilot and get and then which can be scaled up because in the end, many when you get into maturity, it's the proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
At the same time, you should not be a lagger later on. So how do you operate with your customers, those who are early adopters and who really want to try to be the forefront?
And I think one of the probably the most rewarding part of what we do is working with our customers and helping them understand beyond the Asana product how their workplace is changing and how it's evolving and how they should be thinking about the future of work. And so it differs in terms of the type of research and our ability to scale that. So in some cases, we're maybe working with 4 or 5 customers per year on deep research where it's fundamentally a new problem, a new area of study. We just finished a study in partnership with Amazon Web Services, AWS, where we
Mm,
looked at this problem of tech overload and how do we start
yeah.
to solve tech overload in our organizations. And so that was, a deep exploration, start to finish. We partnered with two amazing professors, Bob Sutton at Stanford and Paul Leonardi at UCSB. And that was something that took months and months from start to finish. So that not as
But but
scalable.
but that is not an easy task.
No.
I know you here in Jan or February you wrote an article about the clutter, and I think I just made looked into my mobile phone at the apps, and I think there's hundreds of them. I don't remember how many I use, but when then I look into the company, yeah, everyone is sitting with a lot of different tools, etc. If you want to get rid of X, you will also get quite a few people who say, well, these tools are a lot better than that because they may be, specified for a specific purpose. So it takes, I presume, a pretty strong leadership explaining the why.
Mm-hmm.
Because some is going to get it better, some are getting it worse,
Mm-hmm.
short term. But from the company perspective, it's going to be a hell of a lot of difference. How do you reason around this?
It's
The clutter. And maybe explain what the clutter is.
it's a pervasive clutter for sure. It's a topic I'm deeply passionate about. When we look at enterprise organizations right now, they're using on average more than 300 different enterprise technologies, and it's creating this clutter, this exhaustion among workers because they no longer know what work to do in which technology. And so it's creating enormous switching costs, context switching costs, and this inability to prioritize how to use different technologies. And then you have the coordination tools. And this is where Asana fits in, these tools that help you truly manage work and help you bring different groups together. And if you don't have those coordination tools, what happens is, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, you have different groups investing in fundamentally different technology stacks and strategies. And that's where cross-functional work breaks down. And we know that right now, few things are more important than rallying cross-functional groups together to perform and execute strategic goals, strategic workflows. If you don't have that cross-functional collaboration and the tools that enable it, your organization is not going to be successful. And so what we see and what we saw in that research with AWS in particular is the role of the leader is so critical when it comes to technology because technology is so interdependent. We
Mm.
use it to collaborate with our customers. We use it to collaborate with different groups. We use it to collaborate with our manager. And if you don't have the leader stepping in and saying, this is our technology strategy, this is the suite of tools that we're going to use to collaborate as a company, you have this hodgepodge of different technologies coming together in a way that's highly inefficient.
Mm.
And so I think what we
Yes.
saw is this recognition among employees that their leaders need to do a better job at weighing in on what that strategic tech stack looks like and investing
Mm.
in more of those work management platforms that allow you to bring different groups together.
It seems that technology is now actually managing to follow up, but also the cross teams, etc., to see that they align into the
Mm-hmm.
overall objectives. But for those who are in the older school, there's a lot to be learned also in there and how that has moved forward. I would like to ask you as a final, you're a leader, so what key principles and values guide you in your daily as a leader? So let's move away from the strategic points, and now we're going to the employees and your views on being a leader.
I think the biggest one for me is I try to be really thoughtful and intentional about always opening up doors for people. I think I've had that in my career where I've had mentors and people who have opened up doors for me probably before I was really ready to walk through them. And I try to be really intentional about doing that for my team. A lot of us are pretty hardcore researchers, and so there's so much opportunity for all of us to gain new skills, whether that's learning how to communicate the research, whether it's learning to collaborate with stakeholders. And so there's really a lot of opportunity every day to invest in learning new skills, learning new capabilities that are beyond the core research, but also being skilled enough to be able to communicate and glean insights from that data in a way that resonates with decision makers and executives in organizations. So I think that's the first big area that I try to gravitate towards as a leader. I think the second is empathy and having empathy for employees and what drives them and motivates them. I'm a big proponent of recognition, and I try to be really intentional about celebrating those small and big wins and helping people come together as a team, sharing in the success of the team. I think that's very much rooted in my athletic career, where I saw the
Mm.
power of teamwork, and it's all about progress, and it's all about
Mm.
celebrating the journey and celebrating people's growth alongside that journey.
Do you find it harder or easier being a woman as a leader? The reason I'm asking, I can look at myself. That's many years back. I was working at IBM, and still I had a woman as one of my first managers, and she's still by far the best leader I have had.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I also do interview a lot of people, and I understand some struggle in that role. And when I speak to sometimes Swedish very large corporations, if you take the manufacturing companies, they are of course striving to get up maybe to 50-50, but they could still be on 80-20, 70-30 in terms of the positions. If you go to tech companies, it could even be the opposite. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you see your role as a leader, as a woman? Would you see, is there any difference being a guy or a girl in these roles?
I think there's absolutely a difference, and it's always harder to be a leader in general in our workforce. I think the cards have been stacked against us in general for a long, long time, and we see that in the data. I saw it especially in my journey as an entrepreneur, and female founders are at a disadvantage fundamentally. That said, I think I've been so fortunate in my career to have great female role models. Previously in my career at Asana, we have, amazing female leaders across the board that I learn from. And I've learned the skills that, females in general, again, are typically very well suited to thrive and leverage. We see in the data interesting research alongside in terms of the capabilities of female leaders to collaborate cross-functionally to help resolve conflict. We talked about those softer skills and the
Mm,
empathy. I think in general, females, are very well suited to harness those
indeed.
particular skills. So I don't think it's a universal disadvantage, but it is a disadvantage, and one that I think we're
Mm,
all conscious of as we lead and as we grow in our careers, knowing that we're probably going to have to work harder and just be more
mm,
intentional about how we show up and how we lead
mm.
our teams.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's still a journey to go, and of course, we see that also working globally. That it is also different from both country to region, where we have come different far in this. You know what, Rebecca? I love talking to you. We're coming to an end, and I would just like to thank you so much, Growth Leaders by Short here. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for today.
Thank you, Peter. I've loved the conversation, and congratulations on the launch of the podcast. It's just the episodes are wonderful and offer such an incredible perspective that I think is people are in search of right now more than ever.
Thank you, Rebecca. See you another day. Bye bye.